Hello lovely people, I'm Catherine and welcome to this week's journal for all seasons. It's raining very hard. Actually it's just eased off, but it keeps raining very hard, and as many of you know I live in a park home, so it is quite loud. There's also been thunder and lightning, and my little dog Stella is a little bit frightened of it, so she's under my chair at the moment. But anyway, I'll do my best. I'm just telling you in advance in case there are sounds off or I need to interrupt myself to go and comfort her if the thunder comes back. Anyway, last week we stitched this, or I stitched this, and some of you did as well, representing the mycelial networks in a woodland specifically, although they exist amongst other plants of course. And I want to include it in my journal, and I've had a little think about how to do that, and I talked about a window, so I'm going to put this to one side for a minute and prepare its place. So I've gone ahead and cut a hole in my page. Now I did do that before turning the camera on. Let me just open the page. That was last week, week before. So, and I've talked you through how I did it, but you may do it differently. So I found the centre of my page, and I decided on a 5-inch square, so that when I stitch this or stick this or however I decide to do it onto the front, this front side, when you turn over, when that's not there, get that away, you see the stitching on the underside, if that makes sense. So that is my plan. So obviously I want to do something with this spread first. Let me just check the placement, which is difficult because I need to stand up without disturbing Stella. Alright Stars, good girl, stay there. This particular video, more than others, is always challenging because the book's so big to fit it all in. But I do my best. I do my best always. So I think I've got a lovely quote. I've been watching Wall Kimmerer. I watched a interview with her on YouTube, and I will link that video below, talking about her new book called The Serviceberry, or her latest book. I've talked before about braiding sweetgrass and also a little bit about gathering moss. Yeah, so I listened to an interview with her about the serviceberry, and I kept pausing and writing something she said. So I've got a quote, a spoken quote from that interview with a young woman from one of the museums of natural history in the States. I don't exactly remember which one, but anyway, I just love what she was saying, Robin Wall Kimmerer, as nearly always. So I'll link that below. That will be my quote later. It's quite a lengthy quote, and I'm going to write it on here. And I think I'm going to do some of my grungy gesso on there, which was what I did on the other side, to put this on, and maybe some stamping or something as well, I'm not exactly sure. But the first thing I'm going to do is get some colour onto this, both sides of this. What happens next week on this page, I have no idea yet, but obviously it will be facing this page, so that gives me a jumping off point maybe. And then I am into the penultimate signature of my journal. I have 2 more signatures left after this week. Anyway, it seems like in some ways only yesterday that I actually made this journal, and in other ways it seems like it was eons ago. And actually I'll get started because, you know. So I'll get started and witter once I've started, rather than sitting here wittering for half an hour before I actually do anything. So I've still got these pile of bits from my jelly print that I've been using. So I thought I'd use some of those bits. I've got this bit of manky old parchment paper to put there so that I don't, obviously there's a hole, so I don't want to get glue through it. I'm sorry it's a bit grungy to look at, but I'd rather reuse it until it falls to bits and get a new bit. I've also got a little clip, just because this page won't lay flat otherwise. And I'll just talk you through briefly how I did this hole. I did promise that, didn't I? Let's fold that round somehow. I'll just clip that there for now. I can only find one of these. Oh, I know where the other one is. The other one is holding my moon phases together, so I shall carefully take that off and put those in the box so they don't get out of order, which I'm still working on You know, I showed you these a little while ago. I'm still working on these. Right, get on with it, Catherine. There. So to cut the hole, I found the centre, like I said. I still can't find my little craft mat. I am going to go and have a good old sort out of the cheese box room one of these days, because I still don't feel that stop moving it when it's central. I still don't feel that the way I've got things organised in there, not on the cheese box shelves themselves, but in all my tubs and containers, is handy. It seems like every time I go in and I want something, I have to move several other things to get to the thing I want, and yeah, it needs a bit of reorganisation. How is that relevant? Yes, maybe then I'll find my little cutting mat. I've got a little cutting mat, I don't know where it is. So I again used the free newspaper as a cutting mat, and then I used my quilter's ruler and a craft knife. You know what a craft knife looks like, yours probably looks different to mine. And then I cut very carefully round a 5-inch square. Your piece might be a different size, of course. And then I've got an emery file, a nail file, you know, an emery paper. I've also got a bit of sandpaper, but I can't find that either. But this, I don't know where it turned up from. I know they're given away in those free sewing kits and things, aren't they? I certainly don't use it. I can't, even the thought of it on my fingernails makes me go, anyway, I used that to sand off the edges just to neaten it up a bit, but you know. So that's how I made the hole. Right, collage. I'm going to use, I found this Mod Podge in this jar. I'm going to use some of that up because I keep using that medium, which has nearly run out and it's very expensive and I don't know if I'll get any more. But I do have a lot of Mod Podge. So, oh look, that's gone funny. So I'm going to use that. And just collage. Again, I mentioned before, I'm not loving the deep gutter as I get further into this book. If I do this kind of journal next year, and I'm not sure that I will, I won't do it like this. I'm very sorry if any of you made it, and I know some of you did following my tutorial, and you're having the same issues and it's irritating you. But we live and learn. I think it would have been fine for a journal to write in, or maybe even just to sketch or paint in, but it's not fine for working across the double page spread. So, and I lost my glue brush. This is a video about me moaning. I need to cut half the handle off it because it's a pain. I didn't lose it, I left it with glue on for 3 days, and you know how that ends. Right, so this piece is a little corner. Excuse my head. I'm just going to stick that there. So now I've forgotten what I was going to say at the beginning. This is what happens, you see. This is why when I get on one of these tangents, I stay on it, otherwise I forget. And then editing Catherine is watching this back later and is going, you were saying that. Yeah, so today, when you're watching this, I'm actually filming it the day before. Today for you is the 8th of September, and that is 1 year to the day that I moved in here properly. I got the keys on the 1st of September, and no, actually that's not true. I officially owned it as of the 1st of September, my park home, but they very kindly let me have the keys beforehand so that I could come and clean and decorate and so on. There's the rain coming back. I hope you can still hear me. But the 8th of September last year was the first night that I slept here with all my stuff and Stella and Fred. So it's quite a big anniversary to me. It's more than just an anniversary of, you know, moving into a different home. It was the beginning of my new life. That was the sound of my paintbrush covered in glue clanging onto my desk. It was the beginning of my new life. I felt very different to how I feel now. I'm not going to disguise that. I was very unsure and I won't say broken. I wasn't broken, but I was a little bit battered and bruised, let's say, and a little bit overwhelmed. if you were here last year doing the Stitch Journal with me, you'll know that I stayed for a few weeks with a very good friend of mine who was kindness itself, and of course I had all of you supporting me. Once I told you what was going on, the outpouring of love and support I received from you was just, yeah, it helped me so much, and I'll be eternally grateful for that. And obviously a big part of that was the quilt that many of you in the Facebook group contributed to, and that Kaz brought me recently. That to me, I said it in the video about it. Of course, I appreciate each and every person who stitched a square and posted it to Kaz, and of course I appreciate Kaz themselves. But that quilt, when I look at that every night when I go to bed and every morning when I wake up, because it hangs above my bed, I think of each and every one of you. So it's almost as if those people that made the squares represent all of you. I hope that's okay to say, and I hope that doesn't upset anybody who actually made a square. But it represents the whole community, this whole community. And the community of you all is a big part of this new stage of my life. I really mean that. We're all in it. I feel like in some ways we're all in it together. That you're here with me, and you know, I don't know how else to put it into words really. And kind of, well, serendipitously, yesterday evening, so Saturday evening for me, I was sitting here having been out all day, and I'm just thinking, actually, remember Catherine, you were sitting here after being out all day, don't forget to tell them the thing. I'm just thinking I might wrap, you know, like that, and I needn't have bothered with all the sanding off and everything. I might wrap some bigger bits, taking the clips off because they were annoying me. Yeah, so I'd been out all day and I was sitting here on my sofa just over there behind me. I'd had my tea, which is the evening meal to me and some English people. It's very confusing about what we call the different meals here, if you don't know. Anyway, finish what you were saying. Maybe come back to that. I'll circle back. And I opened my phone to just catch up on your comments. So, and I opened the app. I have the app for editing YouTube and all that, you know, my videos. And as I open the comments, as I open the app, you get this big welcome screen. Well, you know, the first screen, and right at the top it tells you your subscriber count and all kinds of other analytics that I try not to look at. Every now and then I look at it. You know, you kind of get sucked into these things, and I've talked about it before, and it tells you whether things are going up or down, or you know, it's very. I find it quite stressful and upsetting sometimes to see, well, not upsetting, you know, your subscriber count's going up, your subscriber count's going down, well done, you're doing well, or you're not doing so well, or, you know, it's very, I don't like that. I don't like that system of education, and I don't like it as a YouTube creator being inflicted upon me either. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. So, but I opened the app, and you can't avoid seeing in your face the subscriber count. And, you know, I've said before, I don't pay a lot of attention to analytics, but I must admit that over the last couple of weeks, I have noticed when I hit 49,000 and something, that I'm creeping up towards 50,000, which is some kind of milestone, isn't it? Just because it's a round number and it's half of 100,000 and all the rest of it. So I opened it last night, excuse me, and it said 49,996 subscribers. And I must confess I did get a little bit excited. Why shouldn't I? See that there where it's sticking out? I'm just going to tuck it round the corner like that. And hope it sticks down, otherwise it'll get stuck down in a minute. So I googled, because I've seen other creators do it before. I think I watched Wendy the Unexpected Gypsy, I've mentioned her quite a lot. And she went up to 200,000 some weeks ago, and she did a video with her lovely partner James, with a live count counting down, and shared the actual moment that she went to 200,000. So I knew that it was possible somehow to get a live count. So I googled and I found out where to do it, and so I had the live count on my phone, and the first 3 extra subscribers happened fairly quickly. So then I was on 49999, and so I'm watching it. Watching it, and I'm watching it, and I'm watching it, and it stayed like that. It must have been a good half hour, bearing in mind the others had just tipped, you know, a few minutes apart. Must have been a good half hour. And then, and I was thinking as I was watching, somewhere in the world, and this is what I just love about this YouTube thing, and the good side of the internet generally, is how it connects us. And if we think about it in a sort of personal, human way, rather than just the mass of internetness, you know. So I'm sitting there thinking, somewhere in the world, someone is on YouTube, or maybe just about to open YouTube, and they don't know about me at all, they don't know anything about me, and they're watching maybe another creator, or maybe they're just scrolling, looking for something to watch, or whatever. And then or maybe someone shared my channel with someone, or whatever. But somewhere in the world is a person who's come across my channel one way or another, and they've maybe started to watch a video, who knows which one, whichever the algorithms recommended, or their friends recommended, or whatever. And then at one point, whilst watching my video, they've clicked subscribe. It gives me goosebumps now to say it like that, and I feel like I might even tear up a bit. And they've clicked subscribe, and I'm sitting there staring at my phone screen, and the 49,999 scrolls over to 50 because of the action of that one person in that moment, but also because of put that on before the glue dries, Catherine, but also because of the actions of the 49,999 people that had already subscribed. I hope I'm making sense here. And that is what I mean, go up, about the community of YouTube. And now my thing's not straight. that feeling that there's another human. I mean, you know, let's put aside all the bots and all that. I don't think we get bots on my channel. That's mostly the people on political channels and things like that. But we're all humans. We're all humans on this planet, all over the planet, as the quilt demonstrated. I had people from India, South Africa, you know, I'm not going to list all the countries in the world, Japan, apparently I am, the States, Europe, you know, the countries all over the world contributing to that quilt. And we've connected through here, through me deciding one day to upload that video showing you how to make cloth twine, basically. And here we are, and 50,000 subscribers. It's just, I never could have imagined. So like I said, whilst watching it, it was the actions of that one person that flipped it over to the 50, but that moment wouldn't have been possible without the actions of the 49,999 people who came before. I hope you followed that rather tortuous logic. Yes. I'm celebrating by tearing up bits of paper and sticking them on my journal, because maybe next week, maybe my theme next week will be something along that line. I don't know, but I'm doing this week because I'm carrying on from last week. I'm going to actually put the glue on this side, but I'm not keen on the Mod Podge showing because it's a bit shiny. And last time I said the Mod Podge was shiny, a couple of people told me very kindly that you can get matte Mod Podge. This is matte Mod Podge. It's still very shiny. I'll put some on there as well, just to be sure. So I'm not keen on it on the front of the work, but you know, whether that justifies me going out. I know I've done that now, I didn't mean to do that, because now I can't do that. Get it off again. Yes. Whether that justifies me going out and buying more matte medium, I don't know, because, yeah, like I said, it's basically a plastic and I need to use up all this Mod Podge that I've got. So now I can turn that over and put that under there and glue it down on that side. So I think you get the idea. I'm going to do this on both sides. In fact, I might. So here comes the rain again, as Annie Lennox once said. I was going to tell you about the names of the different meals. Yeah, I think I'm going to alternate sides. So I'm going to do a bit on this side now and then go back to the other side, just so it's kind of balanced. I don't know. Otherwise, I don't know why. I just feel like doing it for the process. It's great when you can say for the process, because then you don't have to justify or rationalise your actions. Yes, different meals. I will move it over slightly. Put the clips away. I'll just put this clip back on my moons. Excusing me. Yeah, meals. We have breakfast, which I think pretty much everybody calls breakfast. Breakfast, that's the first meal of the day. And I know that some of this will be the same for those of you in other countries. And also, you'll have to tell me if you are British, if you have a different way of saying it to how I'm going to say. So you have breakfast, you have brunch, which is usually on a weekend or a high day or a holiday, and it's a combination of the two words breakfast and lunch, obviously. See, I need my clip back now because that's not laying flat. So that's usually a sort of breakfasty type meal, but a bit more substantial and a bit later in the morning, but still in the morning. Otherwise, it's lunch. And then you can have 11s, which is usually a cup of tea and a biscuit, or a cup of coffee and a bit of cake. At 11 ish. And then there's lunch, but some people, and that's the midday meal, but then some people call lunch dinner. Up north, that's commonly called dinner and dinner time, the midday meal. But there's no lunch up north. Lunch is for posh southern people up north. That's what up north people say. Not all of them, some in my family. Lunch, you're coming up here with your fancy southern ways of having lunch. No, it's dinner time. And even if it's a sandwich, it's still dinner. It has no bearing whatsoever on the nature of the meal. And then you've got tea, which can be a few different things. I hope this is interesting. So tea, and I'm not talking about a cup of tea, I'm talking about the meal, although it can involve cups of tea. So you can have afternoon tea, which again is a bit sort of posh. I once had afternoon tea at the Ritz Hotel. I wasn't paying. Once when I was working in public relations, the journalist I was with was paying, and it was eye-wateringly expensive. But it was the little 3-tier thing, you know, with the cake and sandwiches on, and pot of tea, sandwiches that you could eat in one mouthful, and little mini cakes. Here comes the rain again. I'm just going to tear that off slightly smaller. So that's afternoon tea. You definitely, I don't know why you say afternoon tea, because you don't have tea, the meal, any time but the afternoon. Well, I guess you might have it in the evening. Now I come to think of it. I hope you can still hear me okay. But there's also high tea. That's another phrase that you don't really hear anymore, which would be about 4 o'clock, which would again be sandwiches and cakes and so on. And then there's tea, which in the north is just your evening meal, is your tea. That's your evening meal. Whatever it is, you call it tea, even if you don't have a cup of tea with it. And then there's supper, which in the north is what you have before you go to bed, just to, you know, keep your body and soul together in the night. And that might be a cup of cocoa and a biscuit or something like that, something light. Sounds like we eat a lot. I suppose we do, really. But also supper, and that's to me more down south thing, is the evening meal, is your tea. Your tea is your supper. So you see, it's confusing even for us. because I know a few times I've said about having my tea, and some of you overseas have thought that means a cup of tea and weren't aware that it meant an actual meal until you realise from how I was talking about it. Anyway, so I hope that clears that up. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and finish collaging, because that's going to take me some time. So I'm going to do both sides completely, how I've been doing, and then when I've done that, I'm going to go and gesso here with my grungy gesso. My grungy gesso is just normal gesso into which I've mixed some coffee grounds, just to make it less glaringly white, onto here. And when I've done all that, I'll be back to show you how I'm going to attach the stitch piece. Okay, so I'll see you in no time at all. Okay, I've done all that. I have let it dry. I did my gesso on there, and then I just inked around the edge of this page with my little dobby dobber from Maria, and I inked around the edge of this page. I just used brown plus black because that's what's on my dobber. I added a bit more brown to it. I was going to chime 12, and then I also with the dobber went over the white torn areas of the paper just to unify it all a bit, so it's quite sturdy. I should have mentioned that that was mixed media paper, so it's quite thick, which maybe informs what I'm going to do next. The other thing I did was I tore off the edges of the silk, so now both pieces of cloth are more or less the same size. Now my piece is about 1/4 inch bigger all round than the aperture. Just checking. So it would be a bit, I'd have to be very precise if I wanted to stitch. I've decided to stitch it on, but if I wanted to stitch through the edge, so I think I'm going to put holes further out. I've got my pokey tool standing by, and then kind of lash it in some way with stitching. So I'm going to put the holes maybe baby, I'm just having a look, maybe kind of 1/2 inch or maybe even 3/4 of an inch from the edge. Am I going to get a ruler and be all precise about it? No, I don't think so. So I'm going to just poke some holes. I think I'll start off the corner here. And again, I've got my free magazine behind because I can't find my cutting mat. Rather than trying to stitch all the way through, I think I'm going to do them maybe about 3/4 of an inch apart. I'm making this up as I go along. I don't think I've ever actually done this before, but it works in my head. So I think my head's probably going to come in and all you're going to see is the back of my head, so I'm going to go ahead and do this, and I'll be back to do the actual sewing. Okay, so that's my holes punched, and I've made sure they've all gone right through, and put that away. Now my next thing is, am I going to worry if it's completely central or not? I don't think I am. I should really, shoulding myself, but maybe this is helpful for you, have made the holes quite a bit smaller than the piece, and then that would give you more wiggle room, because now I'm in danger of the edges showing on the other side. But anyway, let's just go with it and see what happens. The advantage of a journal is when you're done, you turn the page and you don't have to look at it again. So I've got a very, very long piece of pearl cotton. I think it's the same pearl cotton I used to do the stitching, because in an ideal world I don't want to have to break off and start again. So I'm going to anchor it, I think I'll start down here just because then I'll keep my head out of your way. I'm going to just anchor it in my cloth. I've got a knot in it, but I'm going to do a back stitch as well because I might have to do a bit of tugging, so I don't want it to come undone. So now I'm just going to go through this corner hole, and then out through the next hole, like so. And then at this point I'm going to try and make sure that it's at least all behind the hole, or in front of the hole, the way we're looking at it at the moment. I think that will be. And then I think I'm just going to go into the cloth, only into the cloth, and pull through. It's a little bit awkward. And then into the hole. Is that going to work? I wouldn't see why not. And I'm not pulling it too tight. I can always go back afterwards and work my way around and tighten up the threads if I need to. And then back through the next hole. And then into just the cloth. And then down through the next hole, and you get the idea. And don't pull it too tight, like I said. I'm just looking at the other side. I can see here that my holes are just off the edge of my piece. So on the other side, they're just off the edge of my piece as well. I do also need to check out the width. I expect there are easier ways of doing this. I expect some of you are shouting at me. But anyway, so I'm going to go on doing it like this and see how it turns out. As always, then you can do the same as me if it turns out good, or you can do something different if it doesn't. Okay, so I'll see you when I've been all the way around. Okay, I'm really liking the way it's looking. More by luck than judgment, as they say. Now that I'm just about to start on the third side, I am now pulling it tight because it's stretched out okay that way, and you can see some of the angly stitches there, but I don't mind. I just really like the way it's looking. But now coming down this last side, I am pulling, like I said, I'm just pulling up on the stitching. So just to be clear, because I didn't really know what I was doing before, I'm coming up through the hole, and then I'm going down through the cloth, and I'm taking, well, it depends on your cloth. Mine's quite sturdy, but I'm going about 1/4 of an inch into it, or slightly more, 1/2 an inch even, because you don't want to go so close to the edge that when you pull up you rip through your cloth. So I'm going down through the cloth and up from under the cloth, and then down through the hole in the paper. And then I'm coming up through the hole from the other side in the paper, and then down through the cloth again. And then, like I said, on this final side, I am snugging it up. Down through the next hole. You see, I can pull quite, excuse me, my voice went. I can pull quite tightly now and get it stretched out over. Over the hole. Okay. I'll turn the journal round, so I'm coming down to the last. I've come up through the last hole in the paper, so I'm going to go down through the cloth again, and then just pull it up. And then if you want to go back and pull up, you know, from further back, you probably can a bit. Just keep the tension on your working thread. And I don't want to break anything, but at the same time, now I do want, I think I'm going to come back up through my underlayer whilst keeping the tension on the thread. And now I'm just going to take a back stitch and do a knot, so this will all be hidden. And I'm still keeping the tension because at the moment it will pull out. I think that's okay now. And I'll just do one more. I mean, it's in a journal, it's not going to take any strain or anything like that. I'll just do one more, and then at the last minute I'll just go through the loop. And one more stitch to anchor that. I'm sorry you couldn't see what was going on, but I think you get the idea. Excuse me, and snip. And my thread didn't run out, so let's have a look. I think that looks okay, don't you? It's, you know, I think it looks okay. This now really feels like part of the page. And then on the underside, the moment of truth. Yeah, that's good. It's all hidden. And then you've only got this line of stitching visible, but I think that looks fine. If you wanted to make a feature out of that further, you could whip something else around it or something, you know, the Marion stitch when you just come through with another thread, but I think I'm just going to leave it plain and simple like that, and it's a nice little frame for that. So I'm going to go ahead and write my quote on here, and then I'll come back and read it to you, but I'll do that off camera because I need to get my head in the way. I think I'm going to write it in my own handwriting with my black gel pen, so I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so that's done. I'll talk about that in a minute, so I'll just read you the quote first. She said, "We have to name the wound. At root it is healing the notion that we humans are enemies of nature, that we are not part of nature, that we don't belong. That story does real damage because it cuts us off from the understanding of mutual flourishing." And I've used those last two words, mutual flourishing, and I've stamped them on some little bits of book page and grunged them up with the ink and stuck them on there, because this story of the trees in the woods being connected, well actually that's the trees in the woods being connected by the mycorrhizal fungus under the floor, or plants. I shouldn't keep saying trees because it's all plants, most plants. That idea of mutual flourishing, I think that has a real message for us. So I hope you enjoyed that, the video, and I hope you maybe are inspired to, if you've done this stitching, to include stitching in your journal. Even though my book's getting really chunky, I do think going forward I'm going to be including more stitching in this, kind of getting back to my roots of stitch journaling. So anyway, wittering on about 50,000 subscribers and what we call meals in England, and doing this spread. And like I said earlier in the video, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope you enjoy whatever creative things you're doing this week, and I'll see you on Wednesday for the coverlet of comfort, of course. And until then, take very good care of yourselves. Lots of love and kisses. Bye bye.